Welcome in to the Illini Inquirer podcast. It is Jeremy Werner and Derek Piper live at State Farm Center, where we witnessed a huge bounce back win for Illinois, 87-79 over Ohio State. Illinois led for only about 10 minutes of this game, but they had 3 kill shots in this one. That's 10-0 runs, 3 of them, and they were messing around with losing with 2 of them, but they had the huge one, like 15-0 run as they bounce back and defeat Ohio State. Tomislav Ivisic is back, and he gets a double-double in his return after 3 games out with mono. Morez Johnson Jr. stays in the lineup. They go big. Morez Johnson Jr. double-double at halftime. He finishes with 14 points and 15 rebounds. And Will Riley, sensational off the bench with 24 points. Kylan Boswell coming off the bench with Dre Gibbs-Allhorn starting, has 14 points, 9 in the second half. And Dre Gibbs-Allhorn, the dunk that we're going to talk about for a while here, Derek. But after the game, I said, they needed that one. You looked at me and said, had to have it. And they had to have this one, and they got it.
They did need it, yeah, for all the vibes in the fan base, the team, and the resume, really. As you're sitting here and talk all you want about metrics, but you get to a point where you're going to be, 500 in league play and everything like that before then going back on the road, Rutgers and then Minnesota. And you haven't even hit the toughest part of your schedule yet, which is going to come up here pretty shortly in the middle of February. So felt like one that they needed to pull together and find a way. Ohio State's been playing well, and I think it's a big credit to Illinois because you took some legit punches from Ohio State. Like they didn't play poorly by any means. They really gave it to you with Royal having his best Big Ten game to date in his career as only a sophomore, but really an awesome performance from him. Thornton, you saw up close and personal. I was looking at the numbers last night. I'm like, he's a 45% three-point shooter this year, and man, that's a really good veteran point guard. And then he's added that to his game. And John Mobley Jr., I was fortunate enough to see him at AAU, and you see the shot making and everything. So they threw those punches at Illinois. You're down 11, I think, early in the second half, and you're like, I don't know where this is going to go. But like you said, Will to come in the second half, do what he did, 20 points and miss only a couple of shots, do a lot downhill too, not just pull up jump shots. And then Kylan, after smoking that layup, to respond and be somebody that was able to get to the rim and make big plays. So like you mentioned, I mean, it's a lot of different guys, a lot of ingredients into this win today. And then defensively, I know that Jake Diebler talked about it afterwards, and I sent a tweet out about it. Like the amount of non-rim twos that you forced down the stretch, you really buckled down. You had the 2 bigs out there, maybe that prevented them from getting to the rim, and then ran them off the 3-point line and made them take shots that Brad always wants his teams to force. And it led to them going cold at the wrong time and Illinois to pull away. And to their credit, they did close it out and not leave that door open for too long.
Yeah, Ohio State shot 47.8% from 3. They went 11 of 23 from 3, and Illinois struggled again shooting from 3, 4 of 20 in this game. The difference, though, Derek, was the efficiency inside the arc. Ohio State was 16 of 50 on 2-pointers in this game. And Illinois, I think, shot 60-something% inside the arc. And obviously, Morez Johnson Jr. was a big part of that. Tomislav finishing at the rim. But that was a huge part of this game. But let's talk about it. I mean, Ivisic, I didn't think he was going today. And he only practiced 1 full practice. He's practiced the last 2 days. Brad said that he's been cleared for it. And that guy played 30 minutes and had double-double tonight. Didn't shoot all that well. Had some turnovers that were bad early. But that was kind of the getting back into it, knocking some rust off. But obviously playing 2 bigs there, him and Morez Johnson Jr., they obviously saw the analytics that those 2 playing together is incredibly efficient, and they dominated the glass tonight in part because of that. 52 to 30 points in the paint tonight, and then rebounds tonight, 43 to 31. And a huge part of Illinois succeeding in this game is 18 second chance points off 11 offensive rebounds. So what did you make of the impact of Ivisic being back and then Illinois playing the 2 bigs together?
That was huge, obviously, early on, and you saw just how much of an emphasis there was to play through Tommy, which we know is something that he can really thrive in, and it helps take some pressure off of KJ, who obviously is battling the turnovers and all of that. and had some today. But Tommy had a couple of giveaways early. He took some threes. Not saying they were bad ones, but he started 1 for 5 from beyond the arc. And I wondered, for a guy that hasn't practiced all that much, and Brad said afterwards got cleared Friday to return to practice and start to ramp up and get ready for this, that are they going to be in a situation where maybe they're letting him do a little too much, and a little too much freedom, a little too much leaning on that guy. But no doubt, in terms of him and Tommy and Morez have a really good way of playing off of each other. You can tell there's a good chemistry there. I think it's fair to say, not to take anything away from Morez, but another legit sized guy down low makes it hard just to maybe only scheme to block out Morez. You got to then account for a 7-1 center who's probably matched up on your 5, and maybe that allows Morez to eat a little bit more as well. And there's no fall off at the 5 spot as you start to cycle those guys in and out throughout the game, and you don't got to worry about playing small or having Ben at the 5 or Carey try to go in there and give you anything. So I think there's just a lot to it, and also on a game where Illinois, especially in the second half, I know we'll probably get into it, only takes 5 threes, and they go downhill a ton. When Tommy's out there, you're spacing it out. You're spacing out the floor because you got that 5-man. So a lot of people deserve credit for that, but there is an impact to be had, obviously, with Tommy, and I'm sure there's a peace of mind getting that guy, just knowing all that he can do. And great to see that to play 29 minutes after we've heard, he's been sleeping 16 hours a day. Maybe that's the formula. Maybe that's the new medicine that we need. I'll try that at home with the wife. We'll see how it goes. But,
don't know if we're allowed to do that as dads over here. All right. The other part of this, the lineup shakeup we'd all been waiting for, and Dre Gibbs-Allhorn, obviously the energy was there, and boy, just a crazed lunatic out there, and you love having that guy. Just the tip in, and then he follows that up with the steal and dunk. Just what a burst of energy. And we were talking before we got on here, like that pop in State Farm Center when he stole and dunked that and got within 1, because it felt like the game could turn there. Like that was as big of a pop in this arena I can remember since the game that Illinois won to get the Big Ten championship against Iowa. And even the year before when they beat Iowa with Kofi Block and Luka Garza. Those are some of the big moments I remember. I guess it was 2 years prior. But yeah, it's just like that felt like such a big moment. But Morez in that starting lineup helped. And I think Kylan Boswell came off the bench and didn't look great early, but he had 9 points during that 15-0 run that changed the game and gave Illinois the victory and attacking the basket. That's what I wanted to see out of him, was better decision making. He didn't have a lot of like decisions from him that you're like, oh, that wasn't great, but he smoked a layup. And you're like, oh no, does he have any confidence here left? I thought Ben Humberkhouse battled, and he only had 5 points tonight on 4 shots, though. He'll take that. He was pretty efficient. But what do you think that starting lineup shakeup did for Illinois?
It rewarded Dre for sure. He needed to do it, in my opinion. And obviously, Brad felt the same way. A guy that has been coming on so well in terms of offensively, he gives you last 6 games going in 35% 3-point shooting, especially according to this team. That's on the high end. Yeah, I know, right? That's on the high end of what you've been able to do. And he hits that big corner one, at Nebraska right before the end of regulation. And it just shows a guy that's fearless. We talked about it, playing with a lot of confidence, and the downhill presence, the ability to attack and get fouled and go to the hoop and add a little bit of transition game too as well. And I think he's an energy giver. Like he's one that not only exerts it for himself, but we imagine it'd be hard not to have it be contagious. He's just like a go to war with kind of guy.
Yeah.
I've said that before. That's just kind of the vibes he gives off.
Every team needs a crazed lunatic, and I say that in the most the most positive way for Dre Gibbs-Allhorn. You need that guy that's like the other team's fearing, like, that guy's gonna go crazy in this one. And just the energy. You gotta have those guys, and he's consistently done it for the last month, Derek. And then the production has been consistent too. I mean, averaging like 10 and a half points a game the last month here.
He has been, yeah. And the dunk was sensational. He's so athletic. It takes you back to, the year before in the summer, and remembering what Brad was saying about him. I mean, this staff has been super high on who he can become, and it's just
He went
great
off,
that he was.
he went off from the Big Ten logo, right? Like
Yeah, man.
that was like a step inside the free throw line. So if there's a Big Ten dunk contest, Dre Gibbs-Walhorn needs to be in it. But like, I don't know if I've seen Terrence take off from that, and Terrence has got like 6 inches on Dre. That was just an electric play.
That's a good point. Yeah, Terrence. I mean, how he used to cock it back and the power that he would finish with, but yeah, the place that he jumped from and the hang time and all of that, and the face afterwards, the face that will live on in memes and gifs and everything forever. But
Especially because you won. If you didn't win after that, come on, man. Like,
I know. Yeah, and that's and like you said, just the jolt that sent into this building and that momentum carry. But you mentioned, like, on the other standpoint of it, while Dre goes in, Kylan goes out, and I really wondered, I think a lot of people felt like that was the move to make.
Yeah.
But you got to consider how both sides of that would be affected. Not to say that you got to be scared and say, hey, well, Kylan may not respond positively to it, but he's a big piece for you still. And I think that early indications in the game, Thornton beats him like a pump fake shake and pops him a three, and Kylan just didn't look great early, like you said, and then smokes that layup. And I wonder does he come back from that? And to his credit, he did. Like he really, when you needed it, because KJ was a little bit of a loose cannon in there, and Kylan goes back in and had the tough finishes and made it a situation where he wasn't in his head and checked out or anything like that. He was able to dial it back. So big credit to him for handling it well, and big credit to Dre for just the way that he's become a bigger and bigger piece, and maybe even to the point of like he's a leader. He's a guy that you can follow my path type of thing.
Yeah, I give Kylan a lot of credit because you make a move like that, though the risk is you could lose him, right? And that's always a concern. But you did. And that takes a lot, right? But I thought Dre needed to be rewarded. I thought Kylan needed to be challenged. Just the decision making from him wasn't good enough. And Brad said he did. And he just wanted more competitive spirit. Like, he likes his toughness, all those things. But for me, it was mostly about decision making with Kylan. I think we saw much improved tonight. And I'll give Ben credit too. I thought, he battled tonight. And their front court was a non-factor. They're not very good in the front court, but they really played well there. But Will Riley got another heater there. 20 of his 24 points in the second half. Most of that was like in the last 12 minutes as well. 7 of 9 from the field, 9 of 12 from the free throw line, and only 1 3-pointer. And he made it. So part of this was scouting report. Ohio State's a smaller team. They are physical, but he's got so much length over them as a 6'8", 6'9" guy. And he attacked the rim, Derek, and he finished, and he drew fouls. Man, that's what you need out of Will Riley. It felt like a maturation game for him, but he's starting to heat up. In games, he hasn't been sick. He's been pretty dang good here recently, and you see just what the value of that is when you don't need Kasparis Yakashonis to put a team on its back. You got other options. And a secondary playmaker, they put the ball in his hands, Derek, and you wonder moving forward, is he the guy that's a secondary playmaker and not Kylan Boswell? Like, when you bring in somebody else, like, is Will Riley the guy you run offense through and put the ball in his hands? Like, he's starting to earn a little bit more trust in that way.
Going into the year, that was the vision, that Will would be in the playmaking role and be somebody that, not to the level of KJ in terms of usage, but being that secondary piece to be able to, as they share the court, share some of the load there, and then when he's off, maybe he is that run the offense through him, and made a really nice read and find to Morez on a pick and roll, dump off later in the game as he was attracting a lot of attention. And I think that, yeah, he just looks a lot more confident and aggressive going to the hoop, and you got to have the touch to finish him as well, but there's no shying away from contact. He's not here recently playing too sped up, I feel like. I looked at the Nebraska game, while he had a great spurt, he also took some really tough shots afterwards, really, some contested threes. And yes, he gets forced to take the one right before the regulation buzzer. But tonight, I felt like pretty much all of them were good looks. And when guys were pressed up on him, he found a way to go by him. And, kind of one of those plays, he catches it. They've been doing a lot of stuff near the elbow, and letting him kind of set up in a little bit of an ISO and see, maybe some backside cutting, and he can rip drive it. He can kind of step in, step back, but he like pivots and takes it from one way, rip drives it the other, and it's hard to stay in front of or contest high enough on a 6'8" guy that can do that. So his skills are showing, his confidence is coming on a lot, and reminding people, if you forgot or just wondered if it would come on this year, that this guy is, the first round is not out of the woods yet for him. That's still something that's on the table, especially if he can keep progressing forward down the stretch.
And the thing for Illinois is he could keep you out of the first round and exit in the NCAA tournament, right? It's just like when you have KJ didn't have a great night tonight, but you got other pieces. Like you got potentially 2 first-round draft picks there to do it. We have to give Morez Johnson a double-double by halftime, 7 offensive rebounds. He had 4 dunks tonight. Like there were months prior of us watching Illinois basketball, 10 years ago, where they didn't have a month with 4 dunks, it felt like. Just the energy, the consistent effort. Man, he's been an animal. He's been an absolute monster. I just looked it up, Derek. He's number 2 among high major players in offensive rebound percentage right now. Part of missing some shots is it's not a bad offense for Illinois when you got Morez Johnson down there, able to get those offensive rebounds. He's 9th in the country in Division I in offensive rebound rate and 71st in defensive rebound rate, and just a really efficient offensive player because he's, just dunking at the rim. So he's been everything they could have thought and asked for. He's a star, man.
He's a man-child, and 15 rebounds, 14 points to the offensive. Like you said, that there were times where the threes that Illinois took, I'm like, you guys aren't shooting it very great on the game. And no, they didn't take very many in the second half, but sometimes those would just land in Morez's lap and be able to be a good offensive possession. So we know how much Brad has valued that through the years, and he's found a guy that, as you documented, has as good of a productivity in that area as anybody in the country, and he's only a freshman. So we know all of his physical talents, his strength. I'm impressed by even some of the times he gets called for fouls. I feel like he's being pretty disciplined. I think he's straight up and he's jumping when he needs to jump. You don't want to get caught, obviously, in the circle with feet that are on the ground. He's really progressed and been a guy you can trust, I feel like.
Obviously the big man that's here is Kofi. So people are going to try and compare him to Kofi. The guy he reminds me of, and this is going to sound very high praise because this guy was a national player of the year a couple years ago. Reminds me of Shibwe, Oscar Shibwe, man. He's just a freshman. He's going to get better. I think his lack of, being 6'11", he's not 6'11", he's 6'9". We'll probably keep him in college here for a little bit, but he can just be a dominant force down there. And as long as he just doesn't get in foul trouble, right? That's the only thing I worry about with him is fouls. But he didn't tonight, and he was just fantastic, and he's one of their best players. Like right now, I know KJ didn't have a great night, but it's Kasper Sakashonis, Tomislav Ivisic, and it feels like Morez Johnson are your 3 most consistently impactful and valuable players. And then you get Will go off one night, Kyle and can do it, Dre can do it, but Morez's value is so high to this team.
It really is, yeah. And then he adds that defensive side, the rim protection element, even if he's not swatting a bunch of shots, although he's proven capable of that. But
wasn't great against Royal tonight in that first half.
No, yeah, it's true. Royal had it cooking, man. But yeah, he gave up a couple easy ones on drives to the basket for sure.
Yeah, it wasn't the threes because Royal was 7 of 32 coming into this game. He goes 3 of 6. It reminded me of the Nelson kid from Arkansas. Just got caught fire in the first half in that game. Or Alabama, sorry. Yeah. Grant Nelson.
Devin Royal, a former Illinois recruit. Not that they were super close on it down the stretch, but I think he was here for you mentioned the Illinois-Iowa game. I think he was visiting for that game, the regular season finale, when they won the Big Ten title. That was a Chester Frazier recruit, but that's totally an aside. But to have Morez and Tommy working together and to be leaning into a 2-big lineup, Morez that says a lot about Morez. And one that, I know Brad said that the analytics support how well that's been, especially on the defensive end. But I just think that it's something that, he did that a decent amount in high school playing with James Brown, and then he was the 5-man and kind of foresaw that was his primary role going forward. But now he's guys don't want to leave on the bench. You want him on the court because of how much he can move the needle, and to his credit, he just keeps doing it.
Kasper Zakashonis was subbed out with 7 minutes and 29 seconds left. Illinois was down 5. They subbed him back in with 1:53 left, and Illinois was up 81-72. That's phenomenal for Illinois. The fact that your best player can be off the court and have a subpar game for his standards, right? 8 points, 8 assists, or 7 assists in this one, but 0-5 from 3, missed 2 front ends. But that's so encouraging to me, Derek, because he's going to be good. But he's got to make better decisions. Had some bad turnovers again tonight. But the fact that happened and you still are able to win this game, like, that's so encouraging to me. It's a sign of what this team can be when they're full strength.
It's huge. Yeah, and it's growth for sure, because you talked about his lack of presence on the court in the Michigan State game as the primary reason why you lost, and you couldn't do enough. Kind of maybe the unsaid part of that, although it was said plenty, is that Kylan just couldn't push you through enough during the moments that he was out. And I give credit to Brad for pulling that ripcord and saying, KJ needs to sit for a good chunk here down this stretch of the second half. Like, he's not making good decisions. He's playing like an 18-year-old freshman, yes, albeit a very talented one. But we can get by with Kylan and Dre in the backcourt and letting Will do a lot of stuff with the ball in his hands. So those guys needed to step up and answer that challenge. But also, I thought that watching it in Nebraska where KJ was turning it over, there was a stretch where they tried to pull him out, and then Kylan made some mistakes. And, like, for as feast or famine as this might be with KJ, we can't do anything else. We need to.
That's all we got.
He's like you said, that's literally all we got.
He's knocked up. He's got the dice game. He's like, that's his only move on the dance floor. That was Illinois' only move on the dance floor.
That's
KJ.
Right. Yeah. No, that's perfect. And again, Kylan making plays, Will being able to do stuff with the ball in his hands, and Brad made some. The Brad doesn't adjust crowd has been very
great coach today,
very vocal, and did some different things, and a lot of them worked.
Yeah, for sure. All right, we got several super chats from our guy Def. If you want to send any of those in, we'll get to those. We'll talk about the week ahead. I do want to say this about KJ. I thought he did a really good job chasing Mobley. Felt like that was his primary assignment for most of the game. And I know Boswell and Dre were doing it too, but I thought they did a good job with him. They lost him a couple times. He's a flamethrower, man. If he's in the Big Ten for a while, he's going to be a real problem. But he was 2 for 13 from 2. So I thought those guys did a really good job of forcing him into some really tough looks, especially in that second half. He was 2 for 9 from 2 in that one. So I just thought they did a really good job with that. All right, Derek, let's get to Def's super chats here. From now on, let's call Tomislav Ivisic the Iron Rotor, just as fellow Croatian Nikola Tesla intended. Okay, man. Tomi channels the current from the middle, all of our individually clogged coils, and he electrifies a lot of basketball. Thanks for the 1999 super chat there, Def. I appreciate as a writer, I appreciate you just going right into that one, man.
I know. I can't add anything to that. I don't know what else to say.
He's really important. He's really important. Def, another one, $9.99 super chat. Can we also thank the schedule? I watched the 3 games in 7 days. Gauntlet, stop Ohio State dead in tracks 5 minutes into the second half. Happy the fatigue was turned on today. Listen, that Ohio State team's good. I know 13-9 now, but they had won 2 big road games at Penn State and then more importantly at Purdue. They're starting to play well, and their guards are good. They just don't have depth, man. They are really lacking depth, but that backcourt is really good.
You have a couple of really nice pieces between Thornton and Mobley, and then Royal has been a guy in Big Ten play. I think he's averaged about 14 and 7. Mm-hmm. So the scoring, and especially the outside shooting. I mean, I think in Big Ten play between last year's freshman year and this year as a sophomore, he was 4 for 24 from 3, and of course he comes in and makes 3 of them. I know a lot of fans like, why does this keep happening to us? But they've got some guys that are pretty good. You mentioned the depth is a downfall. The center position is one they don't get a lot of productivity out of. But
they needed this one too. Like this was a huge game for them to try and get a huge quad one victory. And Illinois has been that for a couple teams here recently, but they were coming out and I credit them a lot. They had an answer for every Illinois kill shot in this game until the end, right? Like they just kept punching back.
They did. Yeah. Again, you have the home side in a desperation spot down 11 in the early second half. And they couldn't run away from Illinois, had to respond and did. But, Thornton, again, making threes like he did. Mobley is a problem. And they Broyle had his best Big Ten game scoring-wise to date. So, and the last 3 games, they've been shooting 38% from 3. So they'd found something. They previously lost 3 in a row, including at home to Indiana, which wasn't a good time. I don't know if there's ever a good time to lose at home to Indiana, but and then they reeled off three straight. So the good news is, as of right now, you still win this game, but it's a quad one, and you hope that stays the same with Ohio State. I tweeted this out afterwards, after the game. Arkansas, I didn't realize this until looking it up. Arkansas became a quad one again after winning at Kentucky. So you got 6 quad one wins. That's tied for 4th or 5th.
Hey, and USC is back to a quad 2 loss, right?
Yeah.
Because they just beat Michigan State. They're playing good ball, but 6-6 in quad 1 games, Derek. That's why their net's so high, and why this was another big win for them, because we'll see if it stays, right? It's a quad 1 game, but it could be, because I think Ohio State is playing well. But what'd you say? It was like tied for 4th or 5th or something like that in the country, quad 1 win.
I think it's tied for 4th. Yeah. You got Auburn, you got 12 quad 1 wins.
Insane. Number 1 seed, like that. That's like the number 1 easy, right? Like.
Oh yeah. I know Duke's up there, but Auburn number 1 overall seed. So Auburn 12, Oregon 8. A&M and Kentucky have 7, so Illinois tied for 5th with Alabama and Iowa State. Good company there with 6 quad 1 wins.
It's just they got too many losses. That's why they're dragged down a little bit. But if they can get on a run, that's why the seeding possibility still is good. But they got a tough schedule coming up. All right, Rick C., $10 super chat. Thank you, Rick. Give me that Will Riley against Michigan State, Michigan, Purdue, and Duke. Did they shoot a 3 in the second half? Yeah, Illinois 1 of 5 from 3 in the second half. They missed, was it 8 shots in a row during that almost 6-minute scoring drought? And I just wanted to kind of tell Tommy, hey, it's not working for you right now, man. Like that was the part of the game where the decision-making and shot selection got out of hand for this team. And Ohio State obviously had their huge run then.
Yeah, Tommy's a better shooter than what his numbers will say. But I know we've talked a lot about what his return could mean. In Big Ten play, he's still only like a 28, 29% three-point shooter. So, he's shown us the Arkansas game, obviously, some different points where, Indiana hits that way deep one there in Bloomington. And just his presence as a guy that can put it up there and obviously make him spaces things out. But, yeah, I did think he was a little aggressive. And, again, even if, when right, he's making those, maybe when you haven't practiced, but maybe 2 days in the last 2.5 weeks or whatever it was, that's just not one that's going to work. So,
especially when you miss 4 in a row for Tommy, and then you shoot the 5th one. I was like,
he
had 5 of the 8 misses during that stretch. So
yeah, maybe not. Only a poor shooter like me would do that. But
third straight presser, man.
I know.
The Piper shot just takes
the streak's alive.
Takes a stray.
It's alive. But I love the downhill. Even KJ, even though it wasn't a very good game, thought KJ, especially in the open court, did a really good job of putting pressure downhill. Got fouled a number of times. Yes, he didn't
missed him.
Convert him at the free throw line, but he was an example. Will Kylan later on. I just like the emphasis on that, where I know maybe it's scouting report in terms of Ohio State, but you hope that regardless of the opponent, they continue to do that and at least have that balance at the very least.
Yeah, I'm going to buy time here because I want to look up. I mean, 31 free throw attempts, and yeah, KJ goes 4 of 8, so they struggled. They missed some late. Again, they kind of kept that door open. So at one point, I was like, "Screw around and find out." I don't know if you want to keep doing that, but 31 free throws felt like the most for them in quite a while. Like, but that's what I want to see out of this team, Derek, is getting to the free throw line because it's just easy points, and they got the guys that can do it with Will. I think Kylan can be really good at that, and KJ obviously. So just getting more of those attempts to where you can get less empty possessions. Like, I like that. There's just an attitude and a toughness about not settling for threes all the time. Plus, you're just not a very good 3-point shooting team. That's what they are at this point.
For sure. Yeah, it shouldn't be that big of a surprise. Yes, there have been calls that have been missed and whatnot, but it shouldn't be a surprise for a team that takes some of the highest rate of threes in the country. They don't draw a lot of fouls. Like, you're settling for a lot of jump shots. Naturally, you're probably not getting fouled a whole lot. So I think that the refs notice and reward a lot of times the aggression, the head rammers, as Brad likes to say. Michigan State does that really well with their guards. And you just mentioned some prime candidates to do it. Trey White's a guy that can do it at times. DGL's a guy that can do it at times. They have athletes and downhill attackers that can do it. And there's points to be had. What should be easy ones at the free throw line too.
They haven't shot 30 free throw attempts since December 14th against Tennessee.
Wow.
I didn't think it was going to be that much. I mean, they got the last time against a Big Ten team, the most they had against a Big Ten team was Indiana, 26, right? Like, that's such a huge deal. Just getting to the free throw line. Northwestern, before that was 26. So to get 31 free throw attempts, and I know you need to make more, but that was huge. Def, one more, 999 super chat. Don't need a galaxy brain with floor spacing, positionless concepts when you basically have the combined attributes of 2000's Eddie Curry and Tyson Chandler going to college together instead of the NBA. I'll give you the Morez Tyson Chandler comp, even though Tyson Chandler was like 7'2" and just one of the best defenders at the rim I've ever seen. Eddie Curry to Tomislav Ivisic are pretty different players. Tomislav stretches the floor, and I think back to the point of attacking the rim, you can do it more when you have a 5 that can stretch it like that in Tomislav Ivisic. And he's a good passer too, right? There was early in the game he wasn't, but he was a pretty good passer after that and got some good opportunities for his teammates.
Absolutely. I appreciate the reference, though. I just throw me
Baby
back.
Bulls.
Yeah. Love it. Yeah. Reminders that Jamal Crawford was on the Bulls at one point, and
Marcus Fizer.
Ron Artest. Yeah, Marcus Fizer. Ron Mercer. Jeez.
Brad Miller.
Yep.
Some big free agent wins there. Mike Mandel. Who will be guarding Ace Bailey on Wednesday? Is that Morez?
That's where I was thinking. With that same lineup, I think it has to be, right?
All right, let's talk about that Rutgers game. You'll be out there on Wednesday, Derek, and should be a lot of NBA scouts at that one with 4 potential first-round draft picks, including their 2 that are going to go in the top 3. But we don't know if Dylan Harper will play. He's missed the last couple games due to an injury. I don't know what that is, but it sounds like it's really hampering him. But Ace Bailey, like he makes some decisions. His shot selection can be really terrible at times, but when he's cooking, he's unguardable. 6'10", ridiculously long, just a great shooter, can make so many tough shots. So this is going to be a fun matchup. Even though Illinois is so much deeper, they got so many more weapons. But if Harper's healthy, those 2 guys are as obviously as good as anybody not named Cooper Flagg in college basketball.
They really are, yeah. Harper as a big guard that can just make a ton of plays out of ball screens and downhill, finish through contact and everything like that. He's a very savvy point guard for even, only being similar to KJ, 18 years old. So his status, he's missed the last 2 games. He played in the Michigan State game, but obviously was limited. He was questionable going in. I think he only played like 16 minutes in that one and obviously wasn't right. They lost that game at MSG. So I'd have to look into, I don't know, again, I see on the chat comments, Randy says upper ankle for him. So I'd have to look into more as far as that goes. Don't know what his status will be, but if he plays, that's a big challenge. And Bailey, he goes 3 for 15 yesterday against Michigan. admittedly didn't catch the game, just box score watching a little bit, but still 2 of his previous 4 games he scored 30 plus. He had 37 at Northwestern and 30 against Penn State. He's shooting 39% from 3 as a 6'10" guy, and he's a ridiculous shot maker. Just ridiculous.
He's not as good in college as Kevin Durant was in his one season, but like if there's anybody that can be like Durant, like at the next level, it's him. I just don't think he's as smart at times as Kevin Durant, but somebody's going to take him top 3 just because the ceiling is one of maybe the best scorer in the world at some point in his life. So he's just a ridiculous talent, but he can be up and down. But yeah, that's this game you got to win. The rack's not easy, Derek. You've been there in the trapezoid several times, but it's just not a very deep team. So Illinois just got to bring the energy, the edge they brought tonight, and hopefully build on this because get a win there. Then you go to Minnesota, which has not been an easy place to win either. Some ranked teams have lost there, but you're just better than these teams. So if Illinois brings that edge consistently and they continue to build on the chemistry that this group kind of showed tonight, it can hopefully be a good week to get a couple road wins, which aren't easy.
They're not easy, but it should be, a clean sweep of those. If you're the team that you think you are, even with dialing down a little bit of the buzz and hype, obviously losing 3 or 4 prior to this, but strength in numbers is something you have. You're no longer worrying about, when are we going to get whole again? You got Tommy back and indications just in terms of his capacity on the conditioning side to play 29 minutes tonight. That's encouraging on what he can do.
I looked at you before the game. And said 15 and a half minutes over under, and we both took the under.
I said under, yeah. I did.
It's amazing.
It really is. Yeah. So those are things that should play to your favor. And if you catch Bailey and Harper both playing really well and you're at the rack, like that can be a tough one to pull one out, but still, I think that you should win the game. You should go to Minnesota, who just lost to Washington at the barn yesterday, albeit they have upset Oregon and Michigan there, and you don't take anything for granted, but that's something where, Michigan State up to losing yesterday to USC, you can nitpick their schedule and everything. What they did was they just won games they were supposed to win. It's time for Illinois to start doing that. They've let some slip that they shouldn't on this home floor in particular, and time to make up for that.
For sure. It is time to win games. That's a great way of putting it, that you should win. Like there's too many losses here with Nebraska and USC that they shouldn't be losing. I do want to shout out, and you need to, Illinois women's basketball. What a win today out at Maryland, 66-65. Genesis Bryant with one of the most clutch weekends or weeks I've ever seen. Had 17 of 28 points in Rutgers in fourth quarter and overtime to avoid a bad loss. And tonight she has 20 points, gets fouled in the last several seconds, takes the ball to the hoop, finds a way to get to the foul line and makes those 2 free throws. For Illinois to beat Maryland, the number 14 team in the country, their top 25 in the net, that's the first time Illinois has ever done it. They were 0-17 against Maryland, and the closest they'd ever been was 8 points. And that was last year at Maryland. So what Shauna Green is doing in that program, after losing Makaira Cook, an all Big Ten guard, after losing Gretchen Dolan, who I think has the potential in the future to be an all Big Ten guard, and to do what they're doing right now, she should be Big Ten Coach of the Year probably, or at least definitely in that mix. So Illinois now 17-5 on the season. I think they've won 6 of 7 here, and that's after losing those 2. They're 7-4 in the Big Ten, and that's such a huge resume boosting win. I know Joey just got off the phone with Shauna Green, so we'll have a story up on Illini Inquirer here very shortly, but Kendall Bostic, 13 points, 14 rebounds. Bryn Shoup-Hill had a huge 3 in that game. Barry Wallace, the 5-star freshman, starting to play like that, 14 points in this one. So Illinois got 3 great coaches at the top of these programs, don't they? With Brett Bielema rolling in recruiting, and we'll do a podcast episode on that here coming up. But what Shauna Green, Illinois are doing, and then I know Brad Underwood might have had a bad few weeks there with the fans, but he's still pretty good at this. It's a pretty good roster, and if they're whole and can catch fire here, then they're really dangerous going into March. But Shauna's coaching job is as good as any of them.
Yeah, you said it there. I mean, I was going to say that, Sean's a rock star. They would really have 3 of them, don't they? And Shauna to be able to where the disappointment when it was the finality of Makaira's done for this year, you'd have to imagine there was just a chance that's a cloud and some hopes to just go out the window in that locker room and everything. So to have that team find a way, and Brad's talked about, when there's a change, especially if the star player goes out, the identities that need to shift, and Genesis to take on more of the point guard role and lead role, and on down the line. So and we know Kendall, how consistent she's been, and that's just awesome to continually see. So super happy, because it would have been such a bummer if those injuries would have led to, okay, this should be a return to the NCAA tournament, and it doesn't happen. And Shauna's making sure, along with the girls on her team, that doesn't look like it's going to be the case.
They've won 6 of 7, and they have a really advantageous schedule here. Northwestern, Wisconsin, Penn State, all coming up. Not great. The end of the season, though, is hard. They go at UCLA and at USC, which USC just lost to Iowa today. So that was a big upset. But that's the kind of win they needed, on top of now taking care of business against some of these lower teams in the Big Ten, to get back to that NCAA tournament. Got to wrap up by asking Brad's question. What do you guys think about that Lakers trade?
You want to take it first?
How do you trade Luka Doncic? I don't care what his weight is. I don't care what issues you have personally or whatever. He's 25 years old. He's one of the 5 players in basketball that I think would be untouchable. The only guy I'd trade him for is probably Victor Wembanyama, right? Like, I don't know if there's anybody else I would trade him for at this point, just because he's 25, most heliocentric stud, led you to the finals last year. I love Anthony Davis. He's 31. He's injured all the time. Maybe you can be better to get to the conference semifinals this year with the roster you just had, because you're better defensively if Anthony Davis is healthy. But this to me is like trading when the Red Sox traded Mookie Betts. How do you trade that guy at 25 years old? Like, you have to keep that guy. This is a move you get fired for, and you go down in history as one of the worst, unless they know something about Luka that we don't, and we haven't heard anything reported out of that. So
should be fired now. How is that
how does the owner sign off?
I know, right? Yeah. But even if you are like, okay, you know enough about Luka, the background, that you want to get out of the Luka Doncic business, if that's whatever that would have to be, like you said, it'd have to be something catastrophic. How is that all you got back? AD is really good. I mean, he's having a tremendous season when he's been on the court, and even
when he's on the court, he's unbelievable.
He is, but he's 31, and he has a pretty proven injury history here. There should be multiple first-round picks on this, and the idea that they didn't talk to any other teams and all that.
Mikal Bridges got 5 first-round draft picks. Now, they might not be great picks, right? I mean, some of them might end up, but I can't believe that this didn't go to market. You didn't wait till maybe the offseason when more teams would be involved. This felt like an emotional decision. At some point, this had to be like an emotional decision. Again, maybe something comes out that we don't know about Luka Doncic, but I know what he is as a player, and I don't care if he's fat or not. he's a baller.
Well, that's the thing. Like, if you can get him to a point where he does take care of his body a little bit more, or whatever it might be, there is a maturing moment for him, because he is 25, and I was listening to Bill Simmons and Ryan Russillo a little bit, and Bill usually tabs like, oh, they're not in their prime until 27. If he's not even in his prime yet, and maybe there will be that season where he gets like the revenge. Now it's going to be the revenge body type of thing, but just think of what he can be. They were in the finals last year, Jeremy. Like,
I know. There's like somebody, Brandon said,
this has never happened.
Or Michael said he's a head case. Character matters. I agree with that. But you know what else matters? Talent. And this guy is one of the best basketball players in the world. He's a future Hall of Famer, and he's only 25. So they got a new owner, right? Adelson's got the most of it. I wonder if, I want to hear what Mark Cuban has to say about this. I haven't been able to look into it all, but it's like, what is this? I don't know.
Too busy on Shark Tank, apparently. I don't know.
I can't understand.
It was a stunner. Like, and the live reaction of like, is Shams hacked?
Yes.
Is this really real? Like, how? It's stunning.
Yeah. I was out to dinner with my wife last night, like having a birthday dinner, and like I came back to that and saw a text. I was like, "Wait, what? No, that doesn't happen." And you're like seeing it. Is that actually Shams or is that like Shems? Right? Like
Yeah, right.
the wrong Twitter handle. And I couldn't believe it. And I was talking to an Illinois basketball staffer today, and they're like, "When was the last move in the NBA like this?" Like, because Kevin Durant, you kind of knew was going to leave, and the Warriors were kind of rumored. LeBron to the Heat would be the one, right? Like where it's like the Heat kind of came out late there. You thought he could leave, but that changed the landscape of the NBA. I mean, think about this as a Lakers fan, man. Like if you were born in like the 70s and you're you're a Lakers fan, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, Magic Johnson, Shaq, Kobe, LeBron, Luka. You got that guy for the next 10 years. Unbelievable. Unbelievable. I can't imagine what Mavs fans are like today.
Do you dare put on the tinfoil hat and be like, after all the talk of ratings and knowing what the Lakers mean to the league, the idea that they talk to one team and they just really set up their next decade.
So what do the Mavs get out of that, though?
That's what I'm saying. Like,
are they going to work the lottery at some point for the Mavs? Hey, 10 years, we'll get you another one.
It makes such less sense to the point where that almost seems more reasonable than what actually happened or what we believe to have happened. I don't know.
Well, and like Jay is saying, the NBA is always going to take care of LeBron. I don't know if LeBron likes this. This is setting up for post LeBron, right? Like, I think Anthony Davis made more sense with LeBron right now. I don't know if the Lakers short term are a lot better because they were kind of rolling here, but you can't pass up a chance to get Luka Doncic for the next 10 years. Unbelievable.
Some people are like, oh, all right, LeBron to the Warriors now. I don't think so. But
let's get crazy. Let's get crazy. NBA.
Sure, why not? Yeah.
Meanwhile, the Bulls are just keeping Levine and Vucevic, and we'll probably lose out on our draft pick. And
I can't even watch them, man. You can't even watch the CHO or whatever the heck it is. Yeah, probably.
Yeah, CHSN or whatever.
CHSN, yeah.
Bad time to try and start a Chicago sports station with the Bulls, White Sox, and Blackhawks. How many of us are going to pay for that?
I probably wouldn't, but I wasn't given the chance to think about it. So I guess maybe thank you for taking it out of my hands. I don't know.
All right, that'll wrap it up. I appreciate all you guys for watching. More than 500 people on the live YouTube. We appreciate you guys. Hit that like button, subscribe to us, hit that notifications bell. We'll have plenty more coming up at Illini Inquirer. Got some football stuff I'm working on. Joey just talked with Shauna Green. Derek's writing about Will Riley. And we'll have more on this basketball game as well. So everybody have a great day. Take care of each other. We'll talk to you next time right here on the Illini Inquirer podcast.